Okay, we're recording.
All right, and then what I can do is either at a different time or whatever, we can go back and talk about those queries in Access that got us to this point.
Yeah.
Um, so anyway,
Okay. Um, so all right. So we're everything we're doing is isolated to Route 130 right alignment. That's kind of what we just got finished saying.
hmm
So before we do any operation to the at the all roads level, including calibration at the all roads, we're preserving the stability of the locations of our TSN route segment events. I'm going to turn this off just because it's not relevant right now. It's really about preserving these linear events here. So to do that, here let's. Sorry for for the purpose of the recording. Let me just re-show that. Oops. Re-show that the begin and end coordinates, so geographic coordinates for those events, are captured in this event conversion query. And here are the lat long begin longitude, begin latitude, end longitude, end latitude for that stuff. Okay,
just
now
to
what we're
state
going
and to state for clarity, the purpose of doing this is because over time there have been modifications to these various routes. There have been changes to the begins and ends of a lot of those segments without a corresponding update to the latitude and longitude locations for the. So we're doing this to ensure that those locations, assuming they're all accurate, have the most up-to-date latitude and longitude that they can.
Yep.
We're preserving exactly what's there right this second,
Yeah.
which is why you do not want to skip this step and just assume the lat and longs that are already in that table are correct.
Yeah. In theory, the lat longs that are already there should be correct, but I think it would be foolhardy to assume that for two reasons. One is that um, it's possible that the lat longs were calculated and then the measures were changed without the lat longs being recalculated for some reason. And
Which is all, which is almost certainly the case if this route has ever had any modification to it.
yeah, and secondly, it's who knows? Maybe whoever did it last time just did it wrong. And I know that if I want something done right, I tend to do it myself.
Yeah.
So all right. So now we're going to update the physical manifestation of the lat longs. Oops. From the virtual manifestation that GeoMedia calculated, and we're going to do that. We have to do it through this event conversion query because it has those lat longs in memory. You need to use this formula for populating the information. I just copied. I should do that. Copied that for begin latitude, so we can say, okay, begin latitude. So begin lat is going to be populated with input.begin latitude 1. And again, this is the virtual column that was calculated by the event conversion query. Uh, change this to longitude. And
Here I would stress the importance of making sure that you're putting latitude in the latitude field and longitude in the longitude field and not accidentally reverse them.
amen, brother. Yep. Check it 4 times.
That's right.
um, And all right, and we can say apply. I mean, we've talked about whether you should or shouldn't check this off. My habit is to uncheck it. But you run a risk when it runs faster, but when you uncheck it, you actually have the option to back out after you press apply. So by pressing the back button. So anyhow, that's judgment call. Here we go. It's gives you a little feedback down here. Ooh. All right, it says update complete. Here. Great. So our lat longs are populated, and if you want to see them, here they are on one record. All right, moving on. Let's see what's next. All right. Truth is you had done the editing of the geometry already, which was fine. In the workflow I'm giving you here, the edit to this is where you begin editing geometry. But in this case, it was fine to do it ahead of time because it.
Wouldn't you? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, the reason for that is your geometry edits happened sort of outside of what is the current route, what is the old route?
Right. Okay. I see what you're saying. So in the case of the reason why you would do it afterward is because in the event that your change was in the middle of the route, which is very common, you have already preserved the latitude and longitude of all of the different segment
Exactly.
locations. So if you go in and you start messing with the geometry, it doesn't really matter because you know where it was.
Exactly.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, first things first in my mind is to stabilize stuff, and then you go in and start changing stuff. Okay, now, so since we've already done this, now what we do is apply new all roads measures to through this layer to the basically we calibrate the route at the all roads level. And just to be really clear, by doing that, we will invalidate the locations of your TSN route segs event all roads event measures.
Right.
Which again is the reason we just calculated those coordinates.
So why do you have to use the view SHS routes to do that? Why couldn't you just create an attribute query of LRS routes of the SHS or of the LRS key for SHS 130R?
You totally can.
That's how we've been doing it. That's why I was asking.
Okay.
But if it's the same difference, because I would imagine in this case, if you're going to do using view SHS routes, you're still going to be creating an attribute query of it.
Yeah. Well, actually, not necessarily. It depends on which method you choose to do the calibration. But both are totally valid. Again, the reason I created this view is just to give you a far smaller data set to
Right.
have to contend with.
So I understand what you're saying with regard to the different kind of calibration. I haven't been able to get interactive calibration to work correctly.
Oh,
So I abandoned it a long time ago, and I've been doing all calibration using just LRS calibration, and that's been working just fine. The only complication, if you want to call it a complication, is that you have to have an attribute query with the specific LRS key that you're wanting to calibrate.
Yeah.
And then you just make sure you point it to the correct query when you run your calibration, because you don't want to accidentally calibrate all of LRS routes. As long as you do those things, it's not really a problem.
Yeah.
Or at least it hasn't been.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand frustration with interactive calibration. It takes a bit of mind bending to understand the tool. But I'll just say this: that once I finally did come to understand everything that tool is trying to support, I kind of grew to love it. But at the
Well,
same,
maybe I should go back and watch those old videos again then.
yeah,
What I know now.
yeah. Um, and you know, another thing you could do is just call up Intergraph tech support and just tell them, like, look, I do a lot of calibration. I see there's this interactive calibration tool. I'd like to, I think there's some utility there for me, but I don't understand it. I wonder if someone could just spend some time holding my hand with it on some real data. And probably what they'll do is put you on the line with Pat Smith for an hour, and you'll come out of that feeling way better.
It was my understanding that the interactive calibration tool essentially allowed you to just take a segment of a particular route and calibrate it. But the problem with that is that what you need to know what your begin measure and end measure is. If I
Um,
remember right. And you don't always
that's
know that.
not exactly true.
Okay.
You can like if you have a route with many segments in it, you can just select the beginning of the route and the end of the route, and it'll trace.
Mm-hmm.
And it will also detect whether within the pathway that it traced, whether there are alternative LRS keys, and it'll give you an opportunity to correct the LRS keys or change the pathway of the route, and it gives you options for handling what the begin measure of the first selected route segment actually is versus the last measure, and it also gives you, just like in regular calibration, the ability to know whether the calculation of measures is based on a field or geometry or what. Um, but it's one of those things where there's so many little knobs and dials that it's really easy to kind of just get lost in the whole thing, and be like, you know what, regular calibration works just fine. And I mean, I've done that myself many times. So anyhow, all right, let's do this. Let's calibrate 130 right. So I believe, let me just see if we even have a query that's set up to use regular calibration. And we don't. So this would be
Say
SHS
130.
1P. Um, all right, I'm just going to go with that for the moment. All right, seem to catch everything. Um, I just saved the workspace, so I saved that query for later use. Do you want to spend a minute looking at interactive calibration, or should I just do it the way you're used to keep moving with the workflow?
I wouldn't mind seeing how you would propose using interactive calibration in this particular instance, because it would seem
Okay.
to me, given the fact that if you trace the line from the beginning of the route to the end, you're going to end up crossing multiple LRS keys that do
You
not
don't want.
belong.
Yeah. No,
So,
I would have to
like,
do 3 separate interactive calibrations to account for these gaps.
whereas you could run a single, just regular calibration, it's going to only care about
Yeah.
the key in question, and it's going to get only what you want.
Yep.
You can do it one step.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think the truth is that regular calibration is the better candidate for this particular operation. But I know there are some operations where interactive calibration is the more efficient
And
approach.
I'm sure that that's probably true. I just don't have enough familiarity
Yeah.
with how that tool works to be able to
Anyhow,
gauge.
let's just leave it at that and use
Okay.
a regular calibration since that's the better approach. So, okay, you're probably better versed in this than I am by now, but okay, we're going to do it based on this query. LRS measure, check the properties. This is probably saved on your machine, but
Yeah, I usually have to set it up the first time, and then it
it
stays.
remembers.
It remembers until I shut down GeoMedia.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's weird. Huh.
And
Uh,
then I have to, this part, actually, the LRS properties, which you're doing right now, it remembers.
yeah. Okay. Yeah.
It's
That's
the rest of the command box that I usually have to go back to.
gotcha. Okay, we're going to use a field. It's going to be Oracle length. The unit is in miles.
But before you continue, I'm going to point out something interesting that you may or may not be aware of.
Yeah.
If you open up that, don't do it right now, but if you click on that properties box again,
Mm-hmm.
it will change aura length back to begin measure.
I am well aware. We've always got to be rechecking that this is on the
Okay.
right
So,
field name.
all right. So you already know about that annoying little thing.
Oh yeah, and
I've miscalibrated many a route that way. I've looked at it afterward and been like, this doesn't look right. Why are my measures all messed up?
and I'll tell you, I'm 95% sure I hit that point in our
I'm
videos.
sure you probably did. That's probably where I got it from.
Okay.
But I know that I've encountered it on my own too.
Yeah. Okay, and it's always by compass direction, south to north, west to east. Gap, constant gap distance, 0.001. This is actually this option, I would say, is the biggest advantage of regular calibration over interactive calibration. Is interactive calibration doesn't handle gaps in an automated manner, but that's because interactive calibration does not assume that you have your LRS keys set up correctly, and this does. So,
I see.
all right, so I think that's it. Here we go.
All done.
All right. Let's just do a little checking to make sure. Okay, that's not 0 anymore. That's good. And let's just make sure that this is 0.
Actually, I have other than measures, not odometer. Never mind. So yeah.
All right. Cool. And maybe just make sure that, yep, it's a long segment.
Because the state highway is
Oh, right. They don't break.
planarized. Well, it's not planarized yet.
Yeah.
It's one of those long-term projects that will need to be done.
Yeah. Okay. What's next? Okay, so what we just did invalidates the locations of query 2. That's interesting that they still seem to be working. Yeah, this is okay. If we were to remove and then re-add query 2 or force it to recalculate the locations of this stuff would change and be messed up.
Right. And that's why, for example, if you reset your connection,
Yeah, exactly.
your warehouse connection, it would move it all. This is pretty common.
Yeah.
We have to do that a lot, unfortunately.
But lucky for us, we've got those lat longs saved. So I'm actually going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to bounce this guy, close, open, because I don't want to be looking at data that's clearly not consistent with what's actually saved in the database. While that's doing that, let me look at. Okay, couldn't hurt to do LRS validation on the new all roads measures. We did that by smell test, by looking, but it is possible. Okay, good. See, that worked. It is possible for us to, let's see here, look at anomalies. All right, so it couldn't hurt for us to go here and say LRS validation. This is a tool, by the way, that was not working properly when I did my training with you guys last year. And it is working properly now based on a bug report I sent to Intergraph. So we could just say, look, for 130 right, just validate that there's no begin distance that's greater than or equal to end distance, or overlapping distances between segments, or instances where the ratio of the geometric length versus the measure length is too annoyingly huge. Basically, you can check for this stuff. And it's clean. Zero anomalies, that's good. That's a really useful tool that I did not train you guys in, that you guys should actually really start using now. LRS validation.
I'll take a look at that.
Yeah. By the way, I mean, if you use that religiously, that view that I built for you guys last year, for issues, looking for certain issues, you have to bounce to see the issues on it. The need for that. This handles the same thing. Anyhow, okay, moving on. Update all roads measures in TSN route segs. Okay, so what we'll do this time is use event conversion query 6 event, which is another event conversion query that converts the events from it converts events from lat long based events. But basically, you have from lat long based events back to measure based events.
I'm going to take the lat longs of the old events.
Yep.
And find what the corresponding measure is on the newly updated, the newly calibrated route.
Yes. Exactly. And that works like this. Let's lay that off, and maybe I'll even so query 6 converts coordinate-based measures to all roads measures. Conversion query 6. What's this? All right. Let's just look. I want to see what that data set actually looks like. So query 6 display Sure.
Those are going to round those guys off when
Yeah.
they're populated.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about rounding. That's all. Whenever you insert those values into Oracle, it'll round them for you. I'm a little okay. No, this makes sense. So what used to be 0 is now 0.279.
Yep, that's what we would expect.
So this is all believable. And I'll tell you, the truth is you actually can do this. Control C. Control V.
Instead of the
Update attributes. I'm not 100% this is going to work, but let me try it. I just want you to know that this is another way to accomplish the same thing. It doesn't work very well in really large data sets.
Well, I'll tell you what the experience that I've had
Yeah,
working in the tables.
it's weird.
I have found that sometimes it will retain the data that I insert if I insert the data in the table.
Yeah,
Sometimes it'll keep it. Sometimes after I've moved away from it, it will revert it back to what it was. I
yeah,
have found I have found that the only consistent way to update the attributes for record in the field is if I select a particular record and then say right click on the map and choose select set properties and then make my changes in the select set properties box for that record.
yeah. One record
When
at
I
a time.
when I do that, it consistently keeps my data. Consistently keeps in the changes.
Yeah,
But when I make the changes in the table, it doesn't always keep them.
and update attributes is consistent, I think, as well.
Update attribute, I've never had a problem with it failing.
Yeah,
Update attributes has always done what I wanted it to do.
yeah. I find this works best probably when you're just doing like I would expect this to work. I don't know. It seems to have worked. Although now it's freaking out about that. Yeah. See, and it did. And not only that's interesting. Not only did it work, but it understood that a trigger fired in Oracle, and it rounded everything. It regurgitated back to GeoMedia. That's interesting. GeoMedia reread the data and displayed what the trigger forced it to be. That's kind of cool. I didn't even expect that. Um, so whatever. Let's do it the update attributes way for the rest of it, just because that's actually the right way to do it. Update attributes. All right, this is query 6. And I think I have a template in here to go from. Oh, I guess I don't. So all roads begin measure is begin measure 1, hence this guy, and end measure 1, and I think we're good. And apply. Always double, triple check that you're doing this operation against the right query. Because if you do it against the wrong query, who knows what records you're updating. Great, 23 records updated. And they all look accurate now.
stuff.
Okay, so we are done. Okay, now we need to talk about odometers.
Yes,
So
and the new stuff from
and new route segments.
Yep.
So all right, let me reset my brain. I'm going to get rid of these queries that are no longer relevant. Let's turn the DynSeg sequence list back on. Oops, that's not what I wanted. DynSeg, query for, okay, there. Okay, cool. So because we updated everything, all right, now the ODOs are wrong, but the all roads measures are right.
Mm-hmm. One quick and dirty check that I like to do sometimes is I will look at. Well, never mind. You're still on. No, this is route segs. And you updated the measures in route segs, didn't you? Yeah. So what I'll do is I'll find out what the end measure is for this route.
Mm-hmm.
The measure for the route, and I will compare that to the last measure in route segs, just to make sure that the route is actually ending where it's described as ending in route segs. Does that make sense? Just make sure I don't have an accidental little overshoot or undershoot or something like that, which sometimes happens.
So you're saying look at route segs?
So I will look at route segs. It doesn't matter which way you go. So your final end measure, the
Yeah.
largest, I'll sort. You can sort by begin measure, end measure, doesn't really matter. It's 20.009 by the looks of it.
Okay.
It's probably 20.009. Then what I'll do is I'll go into LRS routes. Just pull up the table for LRS routes really fast for this route. So you have a query for that route?
Yeah.
Yeah, just display it really fast.
Okay.
So here, the end measure of this route is 20.009. So we know now that the TSN route seg, so basically the SHS terminal point, is at the same location as the route terminal point.
Yep.
Which they should be.
Yeah.
But they're not always, and that's why I started checking.
Yeah. Huh. Yeah, you know.
Especially when you start doing some of this manipulation like this, you start pushing things around and whatnot. That's how stuff starts getting off.
Yeah. Well,
move a segment, recalibrate something.
This is a sort of advanced topic, so to speak, but let me just put this out there, Tim.
Sure.
So, okay, so we define SHS routes within the all roads system, right? Mm-hmm. And they have their own key, SHS underscore 001 underscore P or whatever.
Sure.
And then on top of that, we create really what amount to separate routes, which are TSN-based routes. Mm-hmm. And, you know, we could, if we wanted, replace this stuff, these keys at the all roads level, with arbitrary identifiers. And nobody would be the wiser, assuming that your TSN route segs link to them properly.
Yes.
And the reason for that is that that for on-system purposes, the historically and I think moving forward as well, people have been and will continue to use the TSN-based system for building their business events that ride on top. You know what I mean? Um, all I'm saying is the way I see it. I mean, it's ideal if our all roads identifiers are perfectly in sync with our TSN identifiers, but in a certain way, it's no harm, no foul if what TSN says is Highway 680 bleeds a little bit into Interstate 280.
That's that is technically true. You're right. As long as the appropriate measure segment on the one highway is included in the table for the other highway.
Exactly.
You're right. You can do that. This is what you're describing is essentially what you've already created for the left alignments,
Yep.
where you have multiple keys um, creating the left alignments. I can tell you though that from an update standpoint,
Makes it harder.
it confounds
Yeah.
people when you're looking at the measures and you don't realize that you have it sorted basically by left alignment, and so your keys are bouncing between P and S. If you have a route that is in a freeway, say, and it keeps going from divided to undivided, so
Yeah. I know.
the left alignment goes from P to S, P to S, P to S. And if you go and you sort by measure, which is one of the things that I will often do, just to make sure that things are going in the right order. And I've confused myself because it'd be like, why is it suddenly getting smaller? And then
Yeah.
it goes back to getting bigger. And then and then I'll go, oh yeah, secondary right there. Got it.
Yeah.
You know, and that kind of thing, it can trip you up. And if you're in the wrong headspace, it might trip you up for more than a couple minutes.
Yeah. In those minutes, you can do a lot of damage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So on a slightly, I'll call it tangential note, this isn't really related to what we're doing here. It's just something that I started noticing.
Yeah.
One of our other staff members had pointed it out to me. I'd kind of started noticing it before, but I didn't think to say anything. So if you'll notice under the pre, you notice how
Oh yeah.
half of it is SHS 130 and half of it's just 130.
Yeah.
So here's what's going on, and I don't understand. I don't. So according to the business rules, the pre should just be 130. But if you put 130 in for the pre, and you leave the key blank so that the trigger will populate the key,
Yeah.
it also is taking and populating the pre with SHS 130. So if you put 130 in for the pre,
Yeah.
and you leave the key blank, you're going to want your output's going to be SHS 130 for the pre.
Yep.
And then
Yep. Yep.
so I don't know if that's intentional or not, but the result has been an ever growing number of inconsistent pre's.
Yeah. Huh. My it was intentional when I built the trigger. I can tell you that. I mean, the point of that pre column is just sort of as a catch-all, so that to minimize your so for basically a catch-all for cases where you're not using street name as part of the your LRS key, and it's really intended as a data entry convenience, and I never intended it as I never intended it as something that you would like query on.
Right.
So I don't know.
I don't think I ever have either.
Yeah. So the fact that it's inconsistent is it's not ideal, but it's not a problem, assuming nobody's trying to write queries against that column. But yeah, I remember writing the trigger that way, and I didn't really think about the fact that the data that's in there that was populated into there by some other method without the trigger would be inconsistent with it.
So those are all what that amounts to. Those are the segments that I've created.
Yeah.
Today.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that. Yeah. Huh. If it, is it a problem?
Other than being inconsistent, no. I mean, it's one of those questions that we have to ask ourselves: is how do we want to maintain our data?
Yeah,
Obviously consistent data is cleaner data, and
yeah,
I think that's good data management
yeah.
to have consistent clean data.
Well,
So that I think that's the only. Is it a problem? No, it's just
I could fix it. I mean, anybody really could fix it. It'd be an easy thing to fix. Yeah,
okay. I don't know if I was either. It's probably something that's going to need to be fixed. I would need to have a conversation with managers before I say, yeah, go ahead and go fix it, Adam.
yeah.
But if it's something that Keith can fix, I know they'll probably ask to have him do it.
Okay.
Uh, but that's good to know. I still haven't gotten an answer from them as to whether or not they care enough.
Yeah, right.
So that's what it's going to come down to, because you're 100% right as far as I'm concerned. It's not hurting anything.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry for that sidetrack.
Oh, no, no problem. I'm glad you asked. I'm sure there's like 1,000 questions like that you can only think of like for about 30 or less than 30 seconds while you come across it, and then you just move on in your mind.
Right.
Um, okay, so let's see, where are we?
We are at the point where we're going to need to bring in.
We need to insert a few new TSN route seg events over here. Let's do that next. Um, so actually, I guess what we need is the sequence listing. I think this will give us that. Will it? Let's just find out.
Is it attached to the correct version of the sequence listing?
Yeah.
That's 2116.
Well, so remember, sequence listing is the new innovation with sequence listing is that we don't have an old and a new. We have just a running list that has both old and new. And I guess first thing, let me just verify that we're looking at the right route. Yeah, 130. Well, right. Okay.
So quick question then on that concept.
Yeah.
So you have old and new in here.
Yep. Old.
What?
New.
Right. So on the next update, let's say they decided to, let's say for I know this isn't going to happen, but let's say for example they decided to give the rest of 130 back, and now all those measures get pushed back again, and some of these new measures are now also invalid by a different amount than, and some of the old measures are invalid by a different amount than they were now. So now you're going to have an old, new?
No. You'll lose basically what's currently in new gets pushed to old.
What's in old disappears.
Yeah, and the old disappears.
Okay. So it's not really an ever growing table. It's more, I would say, just it's being constantly updated with the comparison between the immediately previous TSN table with the most current table.
Yeah. But new records are added every poll. Wherever there's a new sequence listing record that didn't exist before, it is being added to the table.
Right.
Based on the new post-mile key. Okay, so let's see here. And just so you're clear, that's what that we were just talking about is exactly the stuff that's going on. Step 1, move the ODOs to old. Step 2, update existing sequence list with new ODOs. So, um, making sense?
Yeah, and then this query is hitting that Access database.
Yeah, it's hitting the table that is populated as the result of those queries, which is called TSN sequence list. So this is the new pull that only has whatever it is that was given from the TSN, the new TSN pull. But this is TSN sequence list. Like this is literally the table we're reading in this data view. This guy here. And audio old. But this has all like 143,000 records or whatever in it. So all of the routes and all of the alignments. And here's an example, by the way, of a record where based on the new, this is a sequence listing record that existed in the old, but does not exist in the new. Therefore, it has a null ODO. It has an old ODO. Anyhow, just
Yeah, no, it happens sometimes.
yeah. All right, so okay, sorry, I keep digressing. So let's sort ascending. I guess we did sort ascending. Where? I'm not seeing our new records. Shouldn't the first ODO be 0?
Yes, always. Yeah, these are the old, because Dale Drive is the first landmark on the old sequence listing for this
Huh.
route.
Maybe.
Not where the route begins, but it's the first landmark.
Well, okay, so this is Dale?
No, Dale's like 2 or 3 roads up from there. I have to look here. Maybe I have it.
Come on. You know what?
Dale is the first road is White, then Stewart, then Miller Manning, then Dale. So Dale is the one is the second road that tees into it.
Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're missing records. So you know what? I'm sorry. I must have not run query 3, which is append new sequence listing records. I'm running it. No. So the sequence listing, the TSN poll I'm working with has we are there any new, if I sort ascending, yeah, there's no new 130s. I wonder if this road is newer than the TSN poll that I'm working with.
Can't be, because I gave you a copy of what I'm using of the same database that I was working from. You should have the 2017.
All right.
That's what I was saying.
Here.
You should have, or sorry, it's not 2017. It's yeah,
This.
1231. There it is. That's that with there that you have. That's the most up to date one. If let's do route. If you do route number 130, we can verify.
Let me just. Yeah, and this totally worked on Highway 41. Route Uh, uh, let's see, alignment, and then what would I be looking? I would be looking for route number, right? Yeah. And then 131 it was?
130.
130. Okay.
Where's your P N O D O? There it is.
No,
Anyway, there's your 0.
yeah.
You're missing about the first 10 or so records.
Gosh, I wonder why. It thinks they're already there. Where's the landmark?
What's that?
Well, I'm looking for the landmark record.
They're over on the left.
Oh,
Right.
there you go. Okay, and these are new landmarks. All right, so
So you can see, if you look on the table, you'll see that you see Dale Drive there.
yeah, I
Two
see.
records above it have no landmarks. That's
Yeah.
the beginning of the old route.
I see. Gotcha. So these are the new records.
Yep. Well, including the one right below the one you have selected.
Okay. Okay, so let me see. You know what? I should really do this query somewhere else. Sorry, now at this point here, I'm going to pause this thing. Okay. Uh, and anyhow, yeah, I don't know the answer, but the point is here's how to do it, and that's
Sure.
step 4. And if you want to run it, just go ahead and double click on that, and it'll run. And if you don't want to run it, then you can just skip it.
Well, if you run query 4, it eliminates the need for one line of your query of your attribute query that you
Yeah,
had. That's all.
yeah,
You don't need to have you don't need to query out where begin ODO is null, because there won't be any if query 4 worked correctly.
yeah. That's true. That's true.
Anyway,
Yeah. All right. I guess moving on here. So now I'm guessing you're more familiar with this part of the workflow than I am at this point because I haven't done it in a year. But at this point, we want to insert new route seg events here and here, I suspect.
well, I have made modifications to the route segs table, and I would love to hear from you if there's a more efficient way to do it. But the way that I've been doing it, because there's been times where there'll be like a particularly long segment, and I might need to break it up into two smaller segments. So what I've been doing is whatever record it is that I want to break up, for example,
Mm-hmm.
I'll select that record and I'll make a copy of it, and then I'll resort by odometer, say,
Yeah.
and then I'll end up with a duplicate record at the spot that I want to make my change, which is great. And then what I do is I take one record and make it and change it so that it's the first half of the new segment, and the second record and change it so it's the second half of the new segment.
Yeah.
And now I'm done. That's what I've been doing. Obviously, in those particular cases, I have to go in and determine what the measures are manually, really through a little trial and error, because state highway is not planarized.
Yeah. Do you use the LRS precision location tool for that?
I don't know about that tool.
Check
Perhaps
this
that's
out.
a useful tool.
Yeah, it is. LRS precision location. So this is where you configure. So basically, it allows you to click on a spot on a route, and it tells you anywhere on the route what's the coordinate at that location. So
will it tell me the measures?
yeah, I'm sorry, the measure at that location. Okay, it remembers, and just say okay. So display point on mouse click, and you can also key in a measure, and it'll show you as a point on the. All right. So say okay, and now this thing just popped up.
So can we go over to the old part of the route really fast?
Sure.
And let's find the precise measure of one of the road intersections that is not a landmark in the route seg table.
Okay.
So let's pretend like that first segment that goes from the beginning of the route to Dale. There's 2 road intersections there.
Yeah, I see.
And let's pretend that we wanted to, for whatever reason, create a route segment that went to each of those, but we didn't want to, for whatever reason, we weren't planarizing it. Is this precise enough? So right there, you just clicked on it and it gave you a value of 0.34.
Yep.
Did it snap to the intersection, or
No.
you click? No.
But I mean,
It's just trying to get close as it can, and that can only get to within point.
Yeah,
only get. You're zoomed into 1 to 38. So so what's going to happen is all of those values are 0.34, and so I could use, in this case, you could use 0.34 as your begin measure or your end measure for whatever that segment is. But when you do that, it's going to actually create the line at whatever the beginning of 0.34 is, which is not going to be right at that intersection. The only way to do that is obviously to planarize.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Okay, well, that's still a useful tool.
Yeah, and by the way, the workflow.
Manually inserting stuff. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, I just copied that measure. I'm going to turn this back on just for kicks real quick, and now I could remember ends at 053.
Not odometer.
Oh, thank you. Oh, what was it? I'm going to cancel.
Yeah, 0.446, I believe.
Okay, 0.446. Yeah. Done.
There you go. And if you zoom in, I mean, that's really close. If you zoom in, you're going to find it's not exactly on the line, which is as I would expect.
Yeah.
So that's fine. Whatever.
But I mean, turn this on, you'll see that it's just fine. Trying to turn on.
It's within 5 feet.
Yeah. See, that just clarifies everything, doesn't it?
What? Oh yeah, turning that image on.
Yeah.
I know, it made it perfectly clear. Especially since it was Nate.
Yeah.
All right. So that guy was 0.446, I believe.
All right. Yeah, let me fix that. All right. Anyhow, LRS precision location, useful stuff.
So you have to tell it when you open up LRS precision location. Are you telling it which? So you have to tell it which query or feature you want it to run the LRS on.
Yeah.
So
and how it's configured. And by the way, I mean, you could, if you wanted to do the same thing, but based on ODO, what you would do is use this query as your route and tell it that the ODO begin and ODO end are your measures.
So you could have it run on route segs.
Yeah.
Doing that. Okay.
Yeah, you want to see it? Just for kicks, real quick?
Sure.
All
Since
right.
we're here, all
Um,
the future watch the video can see it.
oh, gosh. Okay, here, there we go. So this button allowed me to redefine the LRS definition. So the dyn seg of TSN route segs, route ID and alignment, ODO begin,
Perfect.
ODO end.
Good.
And uh, now I click here, 30 right, 0 point. So we remember we haven't changed any ODOs,
Right.
but it's just moving on up the line.
Good. That's a useful, handy tool.
Yeah. And you'll want to play with all the configurations and stuff. Like this is going the other way. Like you can put in a LRS key and a measure value, and then that location will pop up on the map if that's helpful to you. Um, Update coordinates on move. So instead of on click on move, then you can like go see how I'm moving along the route and it's changing.
Yes.
So it's doing it on move rather than click. Kind of cool. And then that's the actual route configuration with more. I'm sure you can figure out these configs at your leisure. All right, and exit that. There we go. Okay, so I think the next step in this case is go well. Let's see, update. Okay, now next step is auto update ODOs with access queries 5 through 7. Um, so okay, in this case, I think what I would do next is create the new TSN route seg records that are necessary to have blue lines along here. Is that what you would do next, Tim?
I'm sorry. What was that?
I think the next thing that I would do in this case is, well, I don't know. I would. It doesn't matter. So the next step can be one of two things. We could either update the ODOs on the segments that already exist, or we can, or we can uh, enter new route seg records uh, in on these new portions of the route.
I think it would be better in this case to update the odometer values
Okay.
for the old portion of the route, and the reason why is so that when we go and we insert those new records in, we have essentially a link that we need to bring the records up to.
Okay.
And because if we do it the other way, then we're going to end up creating overlapping odometer records, and it will be a little more confusing. I think
Okay.
it'll be more straightforward if we just make the old portion fixed the way it's supposed to be first.
Okay. So then, given that, how do we do? So okay, we have a couple of approaches that can work. Let's. I want to do it through Access, but it hasn't been working in Access, and irking me why. Let me try to do it this way. I'm not 100% this process will. We won't run into a little snag, but let's just try this. Let's just do a. Let's see if we have a join already. A join of
Well, I can tell you a way to do it.
is with math.
It's with math. That's
Yeah.
right.
Um,
Arithmetic.
let me see. What I want to do is actually use the value, link the values that are provided in the sequence listing. Okay, let's do this. Okay, remember this thing I showed you that is a Dyn-Seg of that no okay, one more attribute query. Sorry, remember that I showed you that thing last week that I made where you have points on the map and you can update those points, and then those updates float into the relevant records, TSN route-seg records that begin or end at that point.
Right.
Let me get that up and running again. So, and that was the view of ODO points.
Wait a minute. Don't you have all the new ODO values though?
Yeah. Darn it. This is what I get for. I was here. I'm gonna. You know what? I'm gonna just pause the recording. Oh shoot, you weren't. Sorry.
I know you stopped at one point because you were working something out.
Yeah. Dang it. Oh well. Okay. Well, I just made a join in GeoMedia between sequence list ODO points, which is in access to this view of ODO points from Oracle, and now the join was on these three columns to these three columns, and what we're going to do now is take this column from Access, the new ODO as it exists in Access, and pump it in to here. Oh, and you know what? Part of what's going on here is part of why I have these ranges is to help you understand what's going on with records like this. Anyhow, all right, let's do the update and see how it goes. Okay. So update, I guess it'll be ODO 1. From ODO.
You do bring up a good point. Why are there duplicate odometers?
You know what? Cancel. I don't want to update a joint. Let's talk about that in a sec.
All right.
Where is ODO 1?
ODO 1 is what you want to replace.
That's what I want to update, but I don't see it in here.
Right.
I've joined ODO 1.
Well, it's because you're that has to be what you're using. Oh no, there's join. I see what you're saying. Join ODO 1, and then join ODO.
You know what? I've run into this before now that I think about it. That's why I fell back to Access. Let's do this. Let's at least do it to these to this guy. I'm afraid that we'll run into some issues with this. So I'm copying, pasting.
Was there a reason you didn't select them all?
Yeah,
I noticed that you left off the duplicates.
yeah, exactly. That's why.
Where'd they go? So they are no longer in the table because your join was, or your query was originally only where your ODO old and your ODO are not equal. And since you just copied them over, they're equal now, so they just disappeared off your table.
Yeah, that's right. So let's look. I expected that. Okay, bounce. Or wait a minute, maybe I'm looking at the wrong thing. Um, I was hoping that this updated.
Well, I think that I think Dale was correct, wasn't it?
No, the landmark's correct, but I expected this ODO to start at 0. It's something above 0. Like 0 became some higher number. Let's bounce and see if that solves it. I don't know. Maybe the mathematical approach is the better way to go.
Alternatively, you could do update attribute and add 0.276 to the begin and end ODO.
Yeah, that's true. In this case, it's that simple.
Well, you could have done. You could
I'm
have done it. You can't do it now
yeah.
because of.
Well, maybe I can. If those changes didn't take. I mean, it looks like the changes didn't take.
Well, it looks like it might be okay. It's just the only thing that I'm not seeing is that 0. Here's an easy way to find out is to grab one of those landmarks and compare the odometer of that landmark back to the TSN table. The odometer of the TSN table is the same location. So, for example, Dale, which is the
Yeah,
end landmark there,
right here.
this is saying is that those numbers that are popping up, are those the odometers?
Okay, let's find out.
If those are odometers,
Yeah, they are odometers.
all right, so 0.329 I think is what it was showing. So if we go to the sequence listing,
So
or
this is it.
well, this is, oh yeah, I guess this is okay.
Um,
I don't see your landmark, so I gotta go further down. Dale 0.329. That's what I thought. Looks like everything's updated. It's just that it's cramming the entire beginning of the route into that first
yeah,
segment. And this happens a lot, even when you're doing update attributes in the numerical way.
yeah.
I often have to go back and manually change the first number.
Interesting. That's weird. Um, okay. At
So
some point it stopped work. I mean, if I bring the join back up, um, these guys are still invalid. Um,
Yeah, I'd like to understand why there's
glad I understood. For it has to do with the inner join
because it looks
and the
like each of the
endpoints.
landmarks.
So in the sequence listing, I'm sure you're familiar with this. There are records where you can have more than one record with the same begin ODO but different
Yes.
end ODOs.
Yes.
That's fundamentally what's causing this. And then multiple records are created in the join, but ultimately you're only populating one record back on the Oracle side. And I think, for example, with this one, like if I update one of these, so I just copied this ODO value and I'm going to populate it in here. Both these records will drop out. So here I go, click out. Come on, think about it. All right, well, I'm going to bounce.
When all else fails.
Yeah, that's right. Oh, what are you talking about? It's closed. All right. So, okay, both records dropped out in that case.
Okay, so I understand conceptually what you're doing here.
Yeah.
Like a bit more laborious than it probably needs to be.
Yeah, I'm sure you're right about that.
Especially if you end up with a long route that's got lots and lots of these little segments in here like this.
Yeah. Okay, there.
Same begin ODO.
Another thing I should do is this is well, all right. Let's figure out what this should be. That's
easy enough. That's just a quick search of the table.
Yeah. Just want to. Okay, White Road and.
There's not going to be a White Road landmark.
Oh, there isn't?
Nope.
Huh. All right. Well, if it's easy, here's Dale.
Yes, it's the previous segment. I would have to. It's easier to see with the post miles.
Okay.
It's very difficult to see with the gist odometers.
Here are the post miles.
So you see where you have that jump where it goes from 1.4246 up to 2.34.
Yeah.
So the 2.34. Oh, your post miles are reversed. I see.
Oh, yeah.
So it goes from 2.314. So 2.314 is the first post mile of the stretch of road.
Sounds like 281.
Well, I'm guessing, yeah, it's probably 281.
Okay. And
Back up and populate these guys manually.
what's that?
And then we're probably having to go back and populate those segments manually.
Yeah. I would say just create them using the insert LRS event tool. Do you use that?
No, but I think that's probably a handier way to do what it is that I've been doing.
Okay.
Let's
Let me remind you how to do that then.
let's use your tool.
Yeah.
You just have the feature selected that you want to insert the event into. Is that how it works?
Yeah. So again, bear with me. I haven't touched this tool since last year, but event operations, insert LRS events. Okay, we're inserting into query 2, DynSeg of blah, blah, blah. It remembers. That's cool, I guess. Oh, no. No, it thinks that's the event feature. That's not the event feature. The event feature is view SHS routes. And we're inserting into, let's say, DynSeg attribute query TSN routes eggs. And it's not a coordinate, it's begin mesh, all roads begin mesh to all roads end mesh. So this, you know what? This is an example of where it makes sense, of why it makes sense to always populate. We're not going to need to store lat long coordinates for this, for what we're about to do. Yeah. All right, so I just activated the tool, and it's saying, of course, when I move my mouse, it changes. Look in the lower left-hand corner of the screen, and it says click on a feature for begin distance. Press escape to enter. So I'm clicking. I notice I have my snaps on. You see the snap tool.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm clicking here for the begin, and it's asking, okay, which of these features is the one that?
Right.
It's this one. And I guess we should be looking at this 0 till. I'll let you guide me here. Which of these
Oh, I need to pull up a map. Hang on.
ODOs is going to be the end of this segment we're building?
Hang on a second. Hang on. Oh, goodness. Starts at 101. So what are our landmarks saying here? Junction 101. Route on a Lumrock. Do you know the whole description? No, probably not. So on off ramps northbound. Looks like it's the next intersection. So we could, if you want to be really precise about it, we could actually drop the first segment at the intersection of the on and off ramps. It's already planarized to that, so it won't be hard.
So here?
Yep.
Okay.
So that can be the first feature.
There's that, okay. And I believe Okay, great. And then this thing came up and it's asking, all right, well, that's cool. Route ID is 130. Alignment is R. Basically, we're just populating the record now.
Yep.
And notice, by the way, it just auto-calculated the all roads because we told it to. So this was 0 to what? To 014?
02062.
Okay. And then the rest of this really is optional as far as I'm concerned. Although you said you find the landmarks very important, right?
Landmarks are, I mean, we don't even know what's going on without landmarks. So, yeah.
All right.
So we would just, yeah, put it in. On-off France, northbound Route 101.
Is that good for now?
Or you can do RTE 101. I don't know if it'll fit. You run out of space?
No, but I just can't see over here, and I have to dismiss this to get this going. Close enough.
That's close enough.
Whoa, field size too small. All right, well, whatever. 20. Does that work? Anything else? Okay, let's see how this goes. Oh my God, it worked. Okay. Now we can do the next one. Click on a feature for begin distance, press escape to exit. I think, by the way, I've seen, like, I've used this tool before in the long past in a manner where I was able to create a linear feature, quickly enter some attributes, and then say okay, and then it automatically knew that the next click was the endpoint for the next. Like, it knew to use the endpoint of the last one as the begin point for the next one. And I wish I could tell you exactly how to make that happen, but all I can say is that capability is here somewhere. I just, I'll just leave it at that. Okay.
There's a little tiny segment in there.
Yeah.
Where the two
come together.
Below that, where the two come together. That one.
Okay, and this thing will pop up. I clicked. It's taking it a second to. Come on, man. Oh, for end distance. Okay, so it's giving me instructions on the lower left. Click on the feature for end distance, backspace to undo previous click, or escape to edit. Okay, I'm going to try to backspace. Okay, click for begin distance. Okay, there. There we go.
So we want to include the next segment as well.
What's that?
We can do this. I mean, it doesn't matter if we want to just insert every segment, which is fine.
Yeah.
Nothing necessarily wrong with that.
Well, I don't understand. I think we have to.
Right now what you're doing is we're inserting essentially what amounts to every record from the sequence listing. But normally we don't necessarily go down to that level unless the calibration ends up being so egregiously off that we have to break it down further.
We have to in this case because the secondary and the prime. Oh, you're right, because this is all primary.
It's primary. On the secondary side, you would definitely have to
do
it.
That's what I was thinking in my mind, is that the route ID at the all roads level changes here, but it doesn't in this case. So
on the secondary side, you're absolutely right. You would
yeah,
have to do that.
yeah. Discard the operation. All right, do it again.
So you can just go to the end of the segment there.
Okay, start there and here. Oh, good. This time it remembered. And the ODO, I already forget where the ODO began and it ended last time around. It was 0.
062. 062 is the begin, and 096 will be the end. And the begin landmark will be on-off ramps northbound RTE 101. And the end landmark is sure not appearing in this film.
I should say end of bridge.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's not a bridge. It actually just kind of stops next to some buildings.
Okay. And oh, does it remember that? No. I guess I deactivated the insert LRS event. Okay.
Now we're going to have an interesting situation where it might be useful to use that precision location tool.
Oh, why?
Because it's preferable to try to create a break at a route intersection.
Hmm.
And these are two routes that do not intersect at grade
Yeah.
and are divided.
Yeah.
So the route intersection is actually going to be the intersection of the center lines. So there's not going to be any kind of a route break at that location.
Yeah.
And you're going to have to sort of eyeball or otherwise figure out where it should be.
Well, the truth is, you don't need to use LRS precision because insert LRS event will do that for you. Let me show you. So we'll begin here, and we'll end wherever we want. It doesn't have to be.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Probably need to zoom in and turn on the aerial a little bit to see roughly where that center line is. Right there, yeah, roughly.
Put it right there.
Yeah, right about where that median runs underneath the bridge.
Okay. All right. What are our? Shoot, do we even have the right? Was that 105? No.
So 0.096 is your first odometer. And then we went to the junction. That's the 0.205.
Okay. Oh, you have your own copy available?
I'm looking at the Access database, TSN 12/31/2016.
Gotcha.
When I'm working on this, I almost always have that database up and that table up.
I see. So you don't actually use this in June. You know what? That's nice because the real estate in GeoMedia is, on the map is valuable.
Yes, and that's the reason why I don't bother with it. It's easier to have Access open over on the other screen, and I can just have my one screen devoted to GeoMedia.
What should I put?
For landmarks?
Yeah.
Well, for the end landmark, it doesn't really look like there's anything we could use for the begin landmark. But for the end landmark, I would put, we'll just copy what's here, which is all caps JCT space FAP space FAI space 680.
All right. Hopefully that means something to someone.
It does.
Okay.
All right. So neat. We didn't have to figure out what the precision location was. It calculated it for us. Then we could do the other one and just run it out to the end there.
Okay, you know what? Let me scroll this down a little bit. All right. And then from here, to here. I kind of get it to remember. I don't know what the pattern is, why it isn't. Well, whatever. Are these the odometers handy for you? I guess it would be 205 to 281, right?
Sorry, Jerry came by.
Oh.
Reminded me to make sure that you save some time after this is all over so that I have the opportunity to ask you questions when I start going through this on my own.
We'll make it work. I'm still on contract with GIC. Through GIC, seems like if the truth is anything. I feel like this work is relevant for the GIC contract, and if we just include GIC staff in these sessions, it'll be easy to just do the work under there.
Yeah, well, that's unfortunately above my pay grade.
Yeah, I was just gonna say the same exact thing. Yeah. Yeah.
So as far as the end landmark, or the BN landmark is going to be the same as the previous one. The previous end landmark was the JCT.
Oh yeah.
FAI 680. And then the end landmark is blank.
It's blank, right?
Yep. That happens a lot, unfortunately.
It's just, somewhere. All right.
So you got what did you have on there for the odometer?
281, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
205 to 281. And by the way, have you noticed I have these tooltips on to show data? I don't know if you find that stuff helpful, but I do. So those are the odometers for that segment.
So here's what I want to know. I want to know what's going on. So I'm looking at your table down below.
Mm-hmm.
281 to 307. What's going on at 307?
Oh. 307 to 367, but then yeah, there's some weirdness there.
So I mean that does exist in the table, but 281 is where the beginning of the next segment begins. So the segment that starts with Dale,
Mm-hmm.
or the segment that ends with Dale,
Yeah.
should start at 281.
Let's check that it does. Yep. 281.
And that's from route segs?
Yes, those are odometers on route segs.
Okay. And there's a measure jump there. Should be.
No, there's a all roads measure jump.
Yeah, there should be. That's what I'm talking about. The odometers don't, but
Yeah,
there should be an measure jump. This is just one of those many things that I will double and triple check.
yeah. So
Like,
this 278
the other one should
and
be
this
279.
279.
Okay, perfect. All right. Well, I believe the red alignment's done.
Yes, yes, it is.
So now there's the much more complicated left alignment.
Yep. Um, truth be told, I have to go pick up my son fairly soon.
Yeah, that's fine. I was going to suggest that we maybe try it on a different day, or because I would like. I don't know. You said you had. Did you say you had 8 or 9 hours? 9, I think. Something like
I
that.
had 8 at the beginning of the day.
And we just blew through
We just
two
blew
and a
through
half,
few. But
3.5.
should we? Maybe what I should do is clean up this workspace just a little bit and send you everything I got.
Yeah, let's
And,
do that. If you
and,
wouldn't mind, don't take too long on the workspace,
okay.
and then just yeah, we can go ahead and stop recording. I think.
Oh, okay. Yeah.